With me from Washington with the Pulse, Dan Clifton joins us, and we'll talk with him in a bit. And also David Blanchflower joining us, Rauner professor. Who is David Blanchflower? How about this, folks? He served as a member of the MPC for the Bank of England and wrote a classic book on wages. Does that matter to America right now? I think it does. Let's look at this last night. This guy got enough face time last night at the Bloomberg Washington Post debate. Mr. Keene on 999.
It starts with, unlike your proposals, throwing out the current tax code. Continuing to pivot off the current tax code is not going to boost this economy. This is why we developed 999. 9% corporate business flat tax, 9% personal income flat tax, and a 9% national sales tax. And it will pass, Senator, because the American people want it to pass.
Dan Clifton, I like the phrase there, we developed. It didn't come up through the think tanks of your Washington. Does anybody in Washington really care about the simplicity of Mr. Keene's program?
Well, it's very interesting. You see this plan getting attacked from both the right and the left. You even saw it in the debate last night where some Republicans were saying this is a gateway to new taxes for when the Democrats could just keep raising that national sales tax component to it. But I have to tell you, Tom, he is taking share as Perry's numbers come down, Keene's numbers have gone up, and we are hearing all over the country that people like the simplicity of it. So while official Washington is saying, hey, this isn't what we need right now, America may be saying that. We're in the world of the unthinkable. People are looking for big ideas, and he's put one out on the table, and it's carrying him through. And I think he did a very good job in defending that as he was attacked on that last night.
Let's go to the economics here. Dan Clifton looking at the market realities in Washington. Professor Blanchflower, the simplicity of 999, it's attractive, but it buried Pierre Trudeau a million years ago in Canada, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting. We're sitting here in New Hampshire, the live free or die state. No broad-based taxes at all. And what we were talking about last night was a 9% value-added tax. Quite interesting. And I thought that they really didn't give him quite... Go on. Would
you trust that if we put in a 9% Herman Cain tax, that 5 or 10 years later it won't be a 12.5% tax?
No, I don't trust that. I mean, that's exactly what we've seen in the UK. We've seen a value-added tax across the country. In the last 2 years, it was put up by 2.5% at the beginning of 2010, and by another 2.5% in 2011. So once you've got it there, the danger is that it gets pushed up and up and up.
Who said you could wear sunglasses on set?
I haven't got sunglasses.
My word.
They just
Dan Clifton, help me here with 999.
Yeah, sure.
Is it 999 a gift for President Obama?
Well, absolutely. I mean, President Obama's numbers right now are so bad, he's going to have to tear down the Republican candidate. I don't mean that as a negative statement, but if you look at the 2004 model, Bush had Kerry framed before he's the nominee. If Keene starts emerging as the nominee, most people would say it's Romney at this point, but anything can change. If Keene starts emerging as the nominee, that hands President Obama the ability to say that Herman Cain wants to create a national sales tax on people. Some will say that's a good thing. A lot of people who are hurting, and you're talking about getting consumption up, will view that as a bad thing. So it could ultimately be a gift. At the same time, however, people are looking for new ideas, and this is a new idea.
Well, let's look at an old idea. Bring up this chart, folks. It's a debate chart here from the Bloomberg Washington Post debate. It is the deficit. The white line is outlays. The yellow line is taxes. And you can see those two red circles, Bush and Obama, 2000, 2008. This time is different. Dan Clifton, were you surprised how little there was on the deficit and the debt last night?
Well, I think this gets right to the beginning of your conversation at the start of the show. We are in a period of deleveraging now. Most people want to talk about all the goodies they want to give out during the campaign to get votes. But I got to tell you, there's only one other time in history where we had to get the U.S. debt to GDP ratio down. That was in the late 1940s. There's a very big difference between campaigning and governing. And if one of these people were to win, they would be faced with the harsh reality that they have to put austerity into place. At some point, they're going to be called on that mat. Let me tell you, one interesting moment last night was when Juliana Goldman was asking about a bank bailout in an emergency situation, and the stun of Mitt Romney and the stun of Herman Cain was shocking. Those are the decisions that are going to be made both on the emergency financial situation and the deficit. They're going to have some real choices when they get in there. But I guarantee it will come up at some point in this campaign, Tom.
We're going to show that in a bit. Dan Clifton, bring up this chart quickly on unemployment. We featured this last night as our single chart on that Emmy Award-winning pre-debate show, the structural unemployment election. There it is. Look at that, David Blanchflower, 2000, 2008. And you were surprised not enough on jobs.
Well, I was, and I think the comments we just had a few minutes ago talk about an election and being a candidate. You can say we need to change things, but actually in power you need to get unemployment down, and it gives Obama a real way in, if you like, because he can just say, if you were in office, what would you be doing to get unemployment down? And as far as I can tell, nobody yesterday had any answer. It's the #1 issue, I think, going in here.
Dan Clifton, last word to you on jobs. What will you look for in the coming weeks from these candidates on how to create jobs in America?
Well, I think it's going to be very interesting that we had an economic forum yesterday, and Rick Perry was talking about his coming economic idea. At some point, they'll all have economic ideas out there. They're going to be based on very flat-based income tax systems. They're going to be talking about energy independence and getting rid of some of those regulations. That will form the backdrop of this campaign. They'll all have similar plans by the end of this process.
Let's leave it there. Dan Clifton, thank you so much. Strategas Research Partners. Really appreciate your coverage the last few days.